And it's now my honor to introduce today's Fireside Chat. It's on the subject of access to capital, a brief discussion of types of capital and the expectations from different funding sources. Our panelists are Fred Royall of Royall Capital. I've known Fred 25 years. That was 15 pounds and hair ago. Richard Powell from AP Capital, and Winston Smith from BCF Capital. Moderating the discussion will be Angela Guzman, Director of Supplier Diversity at Comcast NBC Universal. Angela, over to you.
Wow, look at this audience. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Austin. What a beautiful day today. It is a beautiful day, and you know why it's a beautiful day? Because we're going to talk about what everyone wants to talk about here, money. We're going to talk about capital. So today it is my pleasure to actually introduce our panelists. We have a great discussion. It will be fairly brief. We will be bringing in the esteemed Winston Smith. He represents the NMSDC's Business Consortium Fund. He also represents Triad Investments, which is another arm you'll learn a little bit about today. Fun fact about Winston, when Winston was in high school, he was actually the soccer goalie for the high school team. Look at that. Next joining us, we will be inviting over Richard Powell. Richard Powell is the co-founder and senior managing director at APC Holdings. Fun fact about Richard, we're going to stick to the sports theme here, is Richard is actually, he's a huge soccer fan, but he actually played for the Jamaica team. And he played in Europe for 4 years. So, pretty cool, right? And last but certainly not least, we have Fred Royall III. Fred is the president and CEO of Royall Capital Partners. He is a golf fan, although he tells me that his enamoration for the sport does not align with his skill set.
That's for sure.
So it's great to have these three gentlemen here. We have some experts on the topic of capital. We do have that theme of sports, and I think sports does speak a lot to the financial world in terms of it really does rely on the quality of the team. When we talk about capital, oftentimes people think about money, but it is important to say capital can come in various forms. You have human capital, you have intellectual capital. We are here today to talk about that financial capital. So what I would like to do is have each of our guests give us a brief overview of what their funds do, and then we will walk through what this is. And the reason that you're seeing this chart, which is a little bit skewed, it's really to show the levels of capital when you look at it financially. A lot of folks fall into this little area that we call the valley of death. And that valley of death happens to sometimes be the smaller MBEs or the smaller businesses that have not raised capital cash flow, are not quite at a point where they need checks over $1 million or $5 million. And so that is not the area we are going to talk about today, and I want to be very clear on that. What we're going to focus on today is more around the development and the growth capital strategies. So with that, Winston, could you share with us a little bit about your fund and what you do?
Great, thank you. Our official name is the National Minority Supplier Development Council Business Consortium Fund, Inc., or you can just say the BCF. The BCF was founded in 1987 by a group of Fortune 500 CEOs. We exist for the past 30 years for the sole purpose of facilitating financing for NMSDC certified MBEs that are doing business with NMSDC regional or national corporate members. Through the BCF today, we actually provide debt and equity financing. In fact, we have 4 eligibility criteria. One is that the firm is certified by an NMSDC regional council. 2, that the firm is doing business with an NMSDC regional or national corporate member, or a federal, state, or local government organization, or a government agency like a transportation authority. 3, that the firm has been in business at least 3 years. And 4, that its adjusted cash flow covers debt service by at least 1.2 times. We can figure the cash flow piece, don't worry about that. But if the firm meets those 4 eligibility criteria, then regardless of its location in the United States and regardless of the industry in which it operates, we exist to facilitate financing for that firm. We encourage you to call us. Our Chief Lending Officer is here. In the room, we will be at booth 626 tomorrow. We are on the web at bcfcapital.com. And if mezzanine or equity financing is needed, then we own an SSBIC, an SBA licensed specialized small business investment company, via which we can provide mezzanine and equity capital. Please see us on the web, and please come by and see us at our booth, again, bcfcapital.com.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And to that, we'll move over to Richard. Richard, tell us a little bit about APC Holdings.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be with you speaking on this topic that we're all very, very passionate about speaking on. So APC hasn't been around for 30 years, but we're on our 15th anniversary. So we look forward to continuing the growth and the development of jobs in the communities in which MBEs live and serve, and obviously delivering innovative solutions to the Fortune 500 partners that are here. APC vision is very, very simple. A quick pitch, I'll keep it even less than the 4 minutes. We're building a minority-owned Berkshire Hathaway, right? That's our vision. We want to be very proud of thousands and thousands of jobs. Thank you.
That deserves a round of applause.
We want to be proud of thousands and thousands of jobs we want to create with the corporations and the MBEs that are in this room. And I guess getting along that path, we probably have to make a mini Vista Equity first before you can be a mini Berkshire Hathaway. We're huge fans of the Vista Equity story and what Robert and the team at Vista have built. From our standpoint, we have done it before. We've had some initial success building a business. There was a $1 billion staffing company that was an MBE supplier called Zero Chaos. It was a big supplier to IBM, Bank of America, and others, which was a part of our case study. So we know what it takes to build $1 billion businesses, and are looking for the right entrepreneurs and corporations that are going to be a part of building the next generation of $1 billion woman-owned and minority-owned businesses. So we are also easily accessible on the web at www.apch.com, and myself and my partners are here, and definitely look forward to connecting with a lot of you guys in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Fred.
Our firm, Royal Capital, has been in existence for 5 years. So we're the newcomer on the block. That being said, we began in earnest 25 years ago when I initially began my first investment banking job at a bulge bracket platform. I worked in the equity capital markets group. We took 300 companies public, and in any given year, only 2 or 3 of those were diverse or women-owned businesses. 3 years later, I applied to business school with an objective of launching a diverse bank that would focus on raising capital for women in minority-owned businesses. 20 years later, that firm is Royal Capital.
Good for you.
Nice.
We have raised $350 million in capital for women in minority-owned businesses, and it's just exciting watching those businesses grow. So, that's kind of the origin. I think it's really important to kind of give that backdrop. In terms of our firm, we operate as a boutique investment bank. We have a host of investor relationships, ranging from family offices to insurance companies, to a number of large corporate pensions that have a sincere interest in supporting growth of diverse and women-owned businesses. In terms of criteria, the businesses that we look for generally have about $5 million in cash flow. They are generally middle market businesses that are at the inflection point and need growth capital to expand. They're anchored in, much like Winston highlighted, having at least one Fortune 500, specifically an SDC customer. And I think the last 2 key things that we look for is, one, solid management that has a strong vision for growth of the business. And something that's more of an intangible is energy, enthusiasm, dedication to create a product that's value added for its customers. So you put that recipe together, and we think that's the making of the type of company that we want to be in business with.
It's fantastic. So I do have a question for you. You know, I've heard you talk about what it is you're looking for, but I haven't really heard much about the life cycle of that investment. Can you share with me what period you're expecting return, perhaps the level of return that you're expecting with your respective funds? Would you like to take that one?
Our life cycle, on the BCF side, we tend to look for financing where the loan can be paid off in 3 to 5 years. So long as the firm meets that criteria, any of those criteria, then whatever stage it's in is a stage that we're interested in. With Triad investments, we're looking for something that can be exited in 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10. And how about you, Richard?
Sure. Well, again, in keeping with what would Warren do, right? Our favorite hold period is forever. If we invest in the right partners and the right businesses, we want to create minority-run Geico's and Wells Fargo's and BNSF's.
And is that because you actually become a part of the team, or you integrate into the team?
Well, no, we only bring in and hire diverse talent to help run and grow those businesses. So even if we are not the operating executives, the business is run by talented minority and woman-owned professionals that are the operating partners of those businesses. So when we look at it, what we think about when you think about holding period, all investors need a return on their capital.
Yes.
But what we like to do, and we're very unapologetic about it, is we align our company's strategies with the needs of our customers. So we actually think of investor returns as derivative to making our customers, many of them in this room, raving fans of the products and services, right, in which we're offering them. And if the customers are extremely happy, it just so happens the customers are sometimes the largest companies in the world. If the customers are happy, we will find a way to make sure that our investors are happy when the customers are rewarding us with growth and new projects, new opportunities, new ways to innovate and help save them money or help them grow their revenue.
Great. And Fred?
It depends. And so, really for us, it comes down to kind of, first starting with what part of the capital stack or in what type of investment. So generally speaking, if it's a debt investment, it's in probably a 3 to 5 year time frame. That being said, if it's an equity investment, it's certainly, as Winston highlighted, generally a longer period that may be a 5 to 7 year period. And so it's really dependent upon where the business is in its life cycle, how long it's going to take to execute to get to where we need for the return profile for the investors that we bring into the transaction.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So as everyone here can see, there is a very different approach when it comes to debt or equity investing. So I know you shared, Richard, with us a success story with Zero Chaos. I'm interested in hearing, Winston, about a potential success story that you've had in investing.
One of the success stories that we're really excited about is a firm that, when it came to us in 2012, had a negative net worth of about $250,000 and therefore would be unbankable in the commercial banking arena. That firm came in under our CLO, Chief Lending Officer Rubin, and I would tell you that today that firm's net worth is over $450,000. That is a huge success story, and it's directly a result of the patience, or let's say this, Rubin and his team seeing an opportunity there, seeing the management, the excitement of the management, seeing an opportunity to continue to delight its customers, and doing the critical underwriting, and then working with that firm to help it improve its balance sheet.
That's incredible. Great. And
Well, Angela, I just wanted to give the customer side of that.
Absolutely.
30 seconds,
Yeah,
right? So
please.
the revenue grew from 60 million to 1.2 billion in sales in 5 years.
Wow.
That's the marketing, the revenue side. But from the customer side, a part of the case study I was most excited about is This little MBE went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with some of the biggest staffing firms out there, and on behalf of IBM and Bank of America and some of the big customers, AT&T and other big customers we had at the time, we saved our customers tens of millions of dollars a year, and went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with $20 billion staffing firms, some of which are in the room. And that is the exciting part about that case study that I wanted to highlight, that MBEs can be just as competitive and create unique and innovative solutions. Sometimes they just need the big customers to lean in and give them a chance.
That's absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, absolutely. And Fred, tell us about, I know you're a much younger fund, so perhaps you have something that you're excited about, or perhaps you do have an existing success story.
Both, but in the interest of time, this is the one that we've executed on. One transaction that really stands out is we financed a telecom business. It was specifically in the broadband space. It was a $200 million acquisition. We financed $90 million of capital for that transaction. At the time, the business did roughly $25 million of cash flow. With that base, they subsequently, a year and a half later, acquired another business, in turn more than doubling EBITDA from $25 million of the initial business to a combined $65 million of EBITDA.
Wow.
And that now, the enterprise value on that business is north of $1 billion. And what was particularly, I think what's most exciting is that the investor that owned the business, I knew for 25 years. And on the other side of that, the capital party, I knew for 20 years. So it was a beautiful thing to have three diverse investment professionals put together a $200 million deal on its way to $1 billion deal.
That's incredible. That also deserves a round of applause. So you very specifically mentioned broadband, and we're going to work our way back this way. So Fred, are there specific industries that you're looking to invest in now that capture your interest?
Sure. In terms of kind of key verticals for us, certainly telecom, as we highlighted, technology, the auto sector, and utilities. So we spent a lot of time in markets where they kind of mirror some of the spend that takes place in this room and are capital-intensive businesses that need meaningful capital to grow and expand.
So you mentioned technology, and in my mind, I'm not an investor, but I feel that a lot of those companies fall in that valley of death. So are you more risk adverse in the technology space, or do you really stay tried and true in terms of the cash flow and EBITDA that you're looking for to invest?
We learned a long time ago that we stay right down the middle of the fairway. We have very defined criteria in terms of any of the clients that we work with and the capital that gets invested. And probably earlier on, we all have lessons learned when we chose to kind of vary off that path.
Yeah.
A good lesson learned. So hence, on a going forward basis. Unfortunately, we learned that very early on in the life cycle of the business. And since then, have stayed to our primary criteria, and that served us well.
Great. Richard, how about you?
To be frank, the key criteria for us is that you're delivering real value add for your large B2B customers. And if it's a real need and if it's a real pain for your customers, we will help you figure out how you scale the business to the next level. The key criteria for us, I know it sounds a little bit trite, Fred said it, Winston said it, but it really comes down to the intangible, which is the management team, right? I'm a big proponent every time I speak at events like this around MBEs in the room, learning from the examples of not just the Robert Smiths of the world, but the Jeff Bezoses of the world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, the Bill Gates of the world. All of these super entrepreneurs own less than 25% of the businesses that we all know that they own and run. They're not so preoccupied with control and having to own 100%, having to even own 51%, right? How do you create the next Facebook in your industry, the next Amazon in your industry, the next Microsoft in your industry? if you really have the ambitions to do that, it's likely going to require right partners on the capital side as well to help you effectuate that vision. And those are the kind of entrepreneurs that we're looking to partner with.
So it sounds as though you're really open to just about any industry as long as they have the right team and they're meeting the criteria.
And they're delighting their customers, yes.
There you go. And how about you? Certain industries that you're looking at?
Literally, you just summarized it. So long as that firm meets the criteria that we listed, NMSDC certified, doing business or has a relationship with NMSDC, national or regional corporate member, 3 years existence, and can cover debt service, we're industry agnostic.
I love it. So I imagine that each of you hear hundreds of pitches. I'm going to ask you to give the audience members your best advice on how a firm can pitch to you for capital. You can start with this one. You can start. Maybe 3 things that you specifically look for when they come to you and they're pitching and presenting their business.
A, that they have a good, solid business plan. B, that they have a clear relationship with a corporate member, national or regional, and can clearly demonstrate cash flow. That cash flow can repay this loan. And B, that we've said it before, that they're passionate about their business, passionate about the future.
Right, and I'm going to double click on that because, Angela, I think it's very important for the audience to know all of our firms can collaborate together, right? So it's not 3 different firms here in South. Fred and I have worked on things together. I'm looking forward to working on things with Winston. So the continuum here and how we can be of assistance can involve 1 or 2 or 3 different firms. So I just want to double click on everything Winston said and just add 2 that maybe not often that you hear it, right? So I'm just trying to leave the audience with something that is just not another capital panel, right? So I would say one of the key criteria is, does the entrepreneur's desire to succeed outweigh their fear of failure and letting go control?
And so when they pitch to you, you want to feel that they're very confident.
I want to feel the desire to succeed is greater than the fear of letting go a little bit of control and the fear of failing, right?
Very good.
Added to everything that Winston said. And then last but not least, double clicking again on one of Winston's points. When Winston says a tight business plan, right, that also needs to make sure you have thought, just like you would when you're doing a customer pitch. We're a customer in a certain regard if you're looking for capital, and you've thought about our needs. Right, and the needs that the firm is going to have to grow at a certain pace to be able to give a good return to your partner, right? And so in the definition of a well thought out business plan is making sure that the growth projections make sense and they tie into what you're looking to raise. Too often, the idea might be right, the entrepreneurs are passionate, but there's misalignment between the vision that they're painting and what actually ends up coming through in the business plan, right? So consistency and alignment around the growth of the business in keeping with the potential, right, for a return for investors.
And Fred, how about you? Give us 3 things that you look for in a pitch before we wrap.
Yeah, look, I think certainly we've touched on management, strong command for the business, and really having a good sense of how to grow it. Certainly that it starts there. But then I think the second thing, and it's interesting, we have so many discussions with different pools of capital regarding diverse businesses, and we often get pushback that these businesses only have the contract because they're a diverse business. And that's not the case. These are businesses that have a high quality product that deliver expertise in a value-added way to its customers. And the ability to communicate and articulate that to pools of capital such that it's not just a diverse play, that's the gravy on top. But it's a best-in-class business that in some way is able to provide a solution that's better than others. So that's number 2. And then finally, I think, the ability to be disruptive in markets that meaningful dollars are being spent is an important thing to highlight. Because if you have a great idea, but you're operating in a small market, well, from the investor standpoint, that's great if you can own the market, but if the market is, this small versus this big, well, I'm going over here. So the ability to frame to the investor why not only is this a good idea, it provides a good service, but it's in a market whereby there are meaningful dollars that are being spent, to me, that's, another key element that we always look for.
Great advice from our panelists. That is our time. I appreciate each of you coming to share your knowledge. NMSDC will actually be hosting a series of webinars with each of these gentlemen. There may also be other capital providers that will be included in that, so be on the lookout for the release dates. We thank you again for your time, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.